Hi guys, welcome back to KostaWorksFDM. So in this video I want to show you how I get my FDM prints looking almost like resin, but without any fancy printers or expensive upgrades. Just good slicer settings and some easy post-processing. I'm gonna walk through how I slice my models, why rotation matters a lot, and then I'll show you how I finish them up so they're smooth and clean, and actually ready for paint. So before we dive into the slicer settings, here's what I print on. I print on a bambulab A1 and a bambulab A1 Mini. Both are really nice printers, especially for the price. And they handle detail very good. Also, the hot swappable nozzle is such an amazing feature. I can swap between nozzles in about 10 seconds. I don't use the bambulab stock build plate that comes with it. I use the Biqu Panda Frostbite. The adhesion is super solid even with lower bed temps. Since I switched to the Panda Frostbite, I have had way fewer print failures. The models actually stick to the print instead of randomly popping off halfway through, which used to drive me insane. If you're having problems with prints not sticking, I seriously recommend trying this build plate. In case you're wondering about the filament I use for most of these prints, it is Jayo PLA Meta in dark gray. It is super cheap, like 50 euros for 5.5 kilos, but it gets really clean details, especially for miniatures and figure kits. It's basically the same stuff as Sunloop Meta PLA, just a different name with the same parent brand. I actually found it through this video from Fat Dragon Games. If you have a bambulab, be sure to check this video out, it will help a lot. Okay, now onto the slicer settings. I have switched a lot between two slicers. Those are Bambu Studio and Orca Slicer. In Orca Slicer you have way more settings than in Bambu Studio. But there was an update on the bambulab printers which disabled a lot of stuff. So Bambu Studio is my go-to right now. For my fan speed I always run it at 100% for optimal cooling and better results. The only downside is the sound. Now for nozzle sizes and layer heights. I switch between two nozzle sizes depending on what I'm printing. So first the 0.4 nozzle. I use it for the most body parts, bases and effects. It's fast and clean enough for general stuff. Layer heights I use are 0.08 for everything and 0.12 for bases. So now onto the 0.2 nozzle. I use this for faces or tiny details. Sometimes I even use this for body parts if I want extra sharpness. The layer heights I use are 0.08 for body parts and I use 0.05 for faces or really intricate stuff. It's slow but it's worth it. For this nozzle I use the Fat Dragon Games preset mixed with my own settings. For my wall generator I usually go with classic wall generator. It just gives me cleaner and more consistent results, especially on detailed parts. That said, I do use Arachne sometimes, mainly for stuff like textured clothing. Since Arachne can vary between line width, it prints that kind of details way faster without actually losing quality. So now onto the most important step that I don't see enough people talking about. Model orientation. This is probably the biggest thing that changed how clean my prints came out. When I just started 3D printing I used to slap the models flat on the bed, thinking nice, that will save some time. But then I kept wondering why all my surfaces has weird lines or flat looking details. So now I pretty much always rotate my models upright. So that detail parts, for example like faces, armor or anything important, are vertical. FDM printers are just way better at capturing detail in vertical direction. If you print something like a face lying down, it's just gonna look like it got weird lines with no details on it. But if you print it vertically, the ley lines will follow the shape much better and the details come out so much cleaner. Yes, it usually takes longer to print, but you save a ton of cleaning later. And it will look better straight off the bat. So now onto speed. Speed is another important setting. I vary between different speeds for different layer heights or nozzles. The most important one is outer wall. You want that one to be slower than your inner wall. These are the speeds I use with different layer heights. So now onto the supports. I mostly use 3 supports. They're lighter, use less filament and break off way cleaner than those blocky supports. But sometimes I use them in scenarios like this. In this picture you can see a big time difference just because I use the normal supports. When I first started printing I always had a really hard time removing supports, or that supports would just snap off of the build plate. These are the settings I use right now, but I do change them all the time to experiment. So now onto infill. I almost always use lighting infill. It's perfect for display models and strong enough to support the shell without wasting filament. So another amazing setting I have found through Reddit is the accuracy setting. Your models will have more detail in it and now it can print tiny detailed parts that at first it couldn't do. Here is a really good example that showcases it. As I'm going to show you in this comparison, it cannot print the nose ring, teeth and the hair strands well. Instead of this. The only settings I changed are the accuracy settings. You can even see the Fight tattoo under the eyes which at first you couldn't see. It is really a game changer and I suggest you also use this. Alright, now that the prints are done, let's talk about post-processing. This is where the resin look really comes in. But first we need to do some sanding. If your print is sliced well and orientated right, you shouldn't need to sand too much. I usually hit the major surfaces with some 400 grit, then go up to 800 or 1000 if it needs it. But honestly, most of the time I barely sand anymore. It's more like spot checking. Now onto removing the stringing. I use a small lighter and just quickly pass it over the areas with stringing. You don't want to notch your models obviously. Just wave the flame close enough so that the little hairs burn off. Then I will use my fingernails to gently scrape off any leftover junk. It works like magic. Now we will get to the finishing layer. I use two different methods, depending on the project. The first method is Motif Spray Putty. This stuff is awesome. It's a filler spray that hides small scars and layer lines. You just shake it, spray a light coat and let it dry. And if you want, you can send it back and apply another coat. It's fast, smooth and really easy to use. I have used this for like 80% of my figurines. Lately though, I have been using this new trick. I take some UV resin and I brush on a thin coat over the model, just like paint. Then I will cure it under a UV light. It will smooth out all the layer lines and hide scarring really well. There is one big downside though, it is really toxic. It will take longer to apply and you have to wear gloves and a good mask and work in a well ventilated area. But it is cheaper than spray putty and works even better. I'm still pretty new to this resin stuff and I actually already messed up my model. As you can see on this Momo Ayasaya, there are some weird little bumps and ugly spots. I tried to wash the resin with regular toilet paper and it really ruined it. It stick to the resin, which I didn't see when I applied the second coat. I thought that the resin needed to wash, like resin printing, but apparently that's not needed. I haven't done it on my new models and it looks so much better. So please guys, make sure that you don't make this mistake. I still use both though. I like spray putty on large areas and faces, cause it doesn't really obscure any detail. And I use the resin mostly on body parts, but it really depends on the model I'm gonna paint. So yeah, that's how I turn regular FDM prints into something that looks almost like resin. It's really just rotate your models properly, use good slicer settings and finish with a bit of sanding, plus a smooth top coat. Let me know if you tried any of these tips or if you got your own tricks. Drop them in the comments, I'm always curious. If this helped you out, feel free to like the video and maybe sub if you want to see more print and paint stuff. Thanks for watching and I'll catch you in the next one.